Our next movement is a 45-degree lunge. As you can see, we've moved outside because this is a minimal equipment exercise. So as much as I can get outside, take my shoes off, be barefoot on the ground and be out here in the sun, the more we can be outside in nature exercising, the better. This 45-degree lunge, I'm gonna use a single dumbbell. So it's gonna be a suitcase loaded, meaning I have one dumbbell in one hand. For this one, I'm gonna have the dumbbell in my left hand and I'm gonna be stepping with my right leg, but we can actually switch hands and I'll show you why in a second. But to start off, I'm gonna have my feet about hip width apart. If you think about me standing on a clock here, straight in front of me is 12 o'clock, I'm gonna step out to about 2 o'clock with my right foot. I'm gonna step up and out, my toes stay pointed straight towards you, and then I'm gonna rotate my back foot and pivot in. Notice my shoulders have pivoted, my back foot has rotated, my hip has rotated, but my toes on my right foot are still pointed towards you, and I'm gonna drive back. I'll show you what that looks like again in real time. Now I can also do it with the dumbbell in my outside hand, same leg. So a couple things on this movement. Number one, it's critical for us to be able to absorb and produce force in many different directions. If I'm walking, if I'm running, if I step off of a curb, I have to be able to absorb force going sideways and going in different directions. So this is a huge part of this 45-degree lunge because I'm stepping at an angle. So my body, all the muscles on the outside of my leg here, my quads, my hip, my glute, all the muscles that stabilize the outside of my leg, my knee, my ankle, are all gonna have to fire to absorb this load as it comes down. Notice I'm twisting into the movement here with my torso, so I'm getting that rotational movement in the hip and rotational absorption in this right leg. Then I'm gonna drive out of that position, so I'm also creating force production in that same pattern. So that's critical for me to be a functional human, for me to move well in activities or in sports. Also, I had the suitcase load, so that's another thing that's gonna force my body to stabilize this unbalanced load. I can do this movement with 2 dumbbells, but for this one, when I stepped out, I had the load on my inside arm, so that's gonna force my body to adapt to that unbalanced load. Then on the next set, I can have the load in my outside arm, and that's gonna be slightly different. It's gonna target more of the muscles on the inside as that load starts to try to pull me off of the line that I'm trying to move. Last really important factor I told you, making sure we rotate that back leg and internally rotate this hip. Big mistake a lot of people make on this exercise is they step and they let this collapse. See my ankle collapsing? This is putting a ton of pressure on my groin and on the inside of my knee. That's not what we want. So as I step at this 45, I'm gonna pivot, heel goes out, knee rotates in, hip is rotated. This leg is absorbing that force and I'm gonna drive back. I like to perform this exercise for anywhere from 8 to 15 reps on each side. And again, you can use the suitcase load with a single arm, or you can use weights in both hands, depending on how you want to do it. So that is the 45-degree dumbbell lunge, suitcase loaded.